Hello, Ram. Welcome to Radio Unfiltered. First of all, very thank you for accepting my invite and be my guest today. I hope
So
you are doing well.
yeah, thanks. It's so nice to see you after so many years, and great to meet you through this unfiltered channel. Our conversations have generally been unfiltered, so happy to have this unfiltered conversation with you. So excited to meet you, and this is the first time I'm having something. I'm going through this sort of a catch up live or recorded and things like that. So I'm really excited.
Well, with this, I work with you. I mean, to tell my audience, even though I have very limited audience, but to tell them that you were my boss. I've worked with you, so I've closely worked with you. I understand your leadership style, and I believe like you are a great leader. There are very few leaders I've worked with very closely and really admire their leadership style. You are one of them for sure. So I really wanted you to, uh, tell us some story about your journey. So I would first like to start, even though I have many items to discuss, but I would first like to start understanding what do you think about leadership? What is a leadership mindset?
Hmm. Wow. Very loaded question, so you'll have to bear with me for some long-winded answers. But I think you said you've worked with many leaders, and I'm sure everybody comes with their own strengths and perspectives. The way I found you or I met you itself is very interesting. So for your audience, I am you can call me Ram, and I'm a software engineer by both education and by profession, right? So I've been only building software products. Now, one of the things that I did very consistently in my initial, let's say, close to a couple of decades was focus on a very specific domain. So since you asked about leadership, so I'm going to call out certain pertinent points that comes to my mind and speak about it and land into the story of how we met. Right. So I had been, let's say, building software products in telecom networking kind of domain, and it was a very carefully, well, it happened by accident, but I chose to cherish and work in that and specialize in that area, assuming domain is critical, which it is, right? You need to know the subject in which you're working. Softwares come, technologies come, but you're still solving a business problem, so you need to understand the business context. So with that sort of logic, I spend a lot of time in specializing in certain areas. And funnily, about close to 18 to 20 years in my career, I was kind of, let's say, have been building products, multiple kind of products, worked with different people, built teams, then defined processes, large enterprises, and all that stuff. So at one point of time, you felt sort of comfortable doing what you were doing. And one of the realization was, there was a country in Europe where we had to roll out a 4G service or something like that, and I just, we had our solution. I went in, my team was doing their regular work, and it was an evening or a 4 or 5 hour maintenance window. That entire country got this new service rolled out, and there was no drop of blood, no sweat. Things were so easy. So I said, no, that's not fair. It's something is wrong. It was so comfortable doing what we were doing. And that shook me up. And I said, look, I'm gonna give up something, disrupt myself, and push myself into some uncharted territories. And that is when I landed in a different domain, into travel and hospitality, which is where you and I kind of got together, right? Absolutely no idea of what I was signing up, right? And this was intentional, pushing myself, pushing the boundaries, giving up your comfort zone, you know, and then relearning yourself, figuring out what is that you have in you to be in a new space. Can you thrive in that, right? That is when I started. So I was into the common space that we worked passenger revenue accounting in the airline space. That's where we belong. I have absolutely no idea of what shit I was signing
Hmm.
up. Right. So you won't believe it was I had joined in. Within a couple of months, I tried to understand what this company is and all that. And then I started picking up doing cold calls to the airlines companies in India and the heads of passenger revenue accounting in these airlines. Absolutely no idea of what I was doing. But you know what? I had the confidence and guts to go sell them that, hey, you know what? Give up that job. I have something special for you. This is how I prepared a pitch. And a few of them liked one of it, you know whom I'm talking about. And he
Yeah.
said, you know what, Ram, you should talk to Praveen. So I started exploring hiring in a very, let's say, unconventional manner, and that's when he hooked up you with me, and then we met, and we kind of figured out what is that I have, what is that you want, and so what I was trying to tell you is, leader is, why would somebody call somebody a leader? I think the quote unquote, if others are called followers, the followers are looking up to the leader to see something that they can't see, right? And it's the leader's job to figure out the unseen path or not so visible path. So I believe figuring out something which you don't know, pushing yourself into uncharted territories, pushing the limits, and figuring out that way is a quality of leadership. And when I tried doing this, who all I got along doing the similar path. So we made a lot of good friendship, long lasting. It's been going so strong since then. So I think these are qualities, but then there are more to talk about. But I thought I'll tell this interesting story of how we found each other's company as such.
Right.
What do you think about that story? It's so interesting for me.
For me, it was totally, unique experience, and I think it's okay to take the name. I think you approach Umesh, and Umesh suggested you my name.
Yeah.
Umesh did call me. Umesh said that, Ram called me, but I'm right now busy. I don't think so I'll be able to take this opportunity, but I've recommended you. When you called me, I think the first thing I remember, you didn't ask me about what I do, what's my experience, and all this thing. You just said one thing: Umesh has referred you. I don't need to ask you any question. That's it. Okay. And you said that you are preparing something which you are not sure, but you know what you want to do. So you need some time to get back to me, with the vision. And that moment I realized this is a different setup. This is a different interview. I've never faced any interviewer who's, it was very unconventional, to be very honest. And I said, it sounds exciting, at the same time risky,
Risky.
but just like you, I wanted to get out of the comfort zone. What happened that after spending some years, you build that comfort, you build that network and comfort and everything. And I wanted that particular time, I wanted to get out of that comfort zone. And I felt it's the right time you called me. And this is probably the right time for me to look for another opportunity. And yeah, I think we never,
Yeah, it's interesting. Neither of us spoke about what is the role. I mean, the way
yeah,
we discussed was, you come, we'll figure out what is that you're
yeah,
going to do. So we found the candidate, then built the role, which is very interesting.
yeah, exactly. And I had the same thought, let me try something different. And even I didn't come from the airline background. I came from the finance background, and mainly from the service background. For me personally, it was a big transformational change, coming from the service background to a product company. And initial years, I remember the first years, and I think, I don't know whether you did that deliberately or it was just a coincidence that, you put me in a role where you made me to work on the incidents and the
Yeah, yeah.
issues. And I was thinking like, wow, this is not what I had signed
Yeah,
up for.
exactly. And I did have a chat with you, right? I mean, hey, I know this is not what you're going to do for long, but do this.
Yeah.
We'll figure out. And then we landed in some. See, I also needed some time to create a role that lands in your sweet spot. We figured out that you have certain special skills, but I don't have that role. So let's do this for now, and then we'll create that. So it was a nice exploration. It's actually, it takes two to tango, right? I mean, not many candidates are comfortable going through this exploratory path like what you went through, right? So it worked well from that point of view. I was experimenting, you were willing to experiment.
Well said. And I think uh, knowingly, unknowingly, I really do not know, your decision. Maybe that was a strategy or that was just a fluke. I don't know. I believe that was a strategy. But that 1 year time frame really gave me, enough time to understand the product, how the product company worked. Because I came from the service,
On services.
for me, it was always like customer first, you need to ensure that customer is always happy. And, in our, especially in the Indian culture, we have been taught like customers are God,
God,
you know
yeah.
and I really wanted, every time I work with customer, I really treat them like they are our god. But yeah, that 1 year, the product and everything, I think that was fantastic. One interesting thing which I want to mention, like, um you did not give up on me. You was not judgmental saying that, oh, I got this guy after 3 months. You didn't, hey, this is he's not really from the engineering background.
Hmm.
Okay, have I made a mistake? I
No.
don't think so. You ever thought like that?
Okay. Actually, interesting you're bringing up this because I felt completely the other way. When Umesh referred you, I knew you bring in very special skills. So I trusted you. Now I knew we started off putting you in a, if I can call it a off, not so relevant, but necessary for you to pick up the product. So that is not a role that I knew you want to do. And I was trying to figure out. So I had a lot of guilty conscious to ensure that I get you the right place, right? And eventually, the right place was when I had to let you go out of my reporting to find the sweet spot. So that is when I got comfort. So you think in a wise, what is this guy doing here? I actually had the other feel. I made you relocate from a city to another city and I've still not got you the right job that you wanted to do. So I was feeling a little guilty of making you wait for long more than me trying to judge you whether you're doing well or not. That was never a question for me.
Yeah. So I think that leads to one of the greatest quality a leader should have. It's empathy. It's about that I hired him, a company is paying him, so he's doing my job. That's
Um,
a very, I don't think so. That's a mindset will can make you a leader. It can make you a leader just because you have an authority. But for, like you mentioned, for someone to follow, so for someone to look up to, I think the empathy is one. Personally, I keep empathy as number one skill that a leader should have, or along with the domain knowledge. Of course, you need to have knowledge, but domain knowledge you can build over a period of time. Empathy, you cannot. I think you
easily
cannot
built.
pretend. You
Yeah.
cannot pretend. Like you can get that vibe. You can feel that this person is genuine or not, and you are to the core. I think you are one of the most genuine guy I've worked with. Not because I'm interviewing today, I'm telling you, I'm just sharing my honest view, and you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's nice to hear that from you. But yeah, yeah, you're true. I think if you called out something very critical, right? There are skills that you can build, and there are certain things that you can't act or pretend. You need to have it. These are very difficult human skills to even look up and build. Technical skills you can read, master, and then get a score, and then show a certificate and say I got the skill. Right? I mean,
yeah,
who's going to tell you that you are the most let's say empathetic person type of a thing? There's no certification courses for these. So generally, it's a lot about upbringing and values. But as such, the society that we live in also has a huge value to play in here. Transactional, contract driven life that any country or any civilization leads, then you can't expect a lot of empathy there. It's about, hey, this is what you signed up. That's the contract. Here is the SLA. Meet it. And sometimes there are a lot of countries and places in the world where human lives, husband and wife, spouses go like this, right? But but I think the place where we all were brought up, it has a lot of human values. At the end of the day, we all are. Let's say energy bodies, and we are trying to share and live and coexist in a place where all of us have a good life. And having been brought up in those kind of place, which is predominantly most of India, is all about like that. it comes very naturally. Now the choice is whether you want to pursue it or not, right? I mean, that's the choice that everybody is presented with, and one has to take a wise decision to stick with it. If I can, say, yeah, it's unfiltered, I can say.
So Ram, related to leadership, I have a question, and I think this is what I always, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but I always face. I think that this is an area and improvement for everyone who's working in corporate or the personal life or any field of that's having a critical mindset, not criticizing mindset, but having a critical mindset. So I know, like at your level, you are working with C-level people, C like the very senior people, and you have probably have tremendous pressure. You sometimes have to take the difficult decision. Understand. I mean, you are probably responsible for the overall P&L. How? What is your, you know, how? What is your strategy, or how do you keep your composure, and analyze situation critically? What's the path that you follow? What's the algorithm that you follow?
Wow, very easy to ask, tough to answer.
Yeah, I am gonna really ask you questions so that personally, me or the people who wants to be aspiring to be a leader, aspiring to get into a position, and and for me, leadership is not a position; it's a mindset. You
Yeah,
can be in any position, but you have to have that mindset. So really, I really want to understand, get to the core of these things. So
yeah,
bear
sure.
with me.
Yeah, sure. Well, see, there's no secret sauce. So I've worked in multiple organizations in different capacities of leadership. The biggest learning that I have and I carry forward with me is what worked for me in one place is most likely not going to work for me in another place. So adaptability is critical. Situational awareness is something that any leader needs to be literally born with, or they should have it in their skin and DNA. It's critical because you might have tried something and been very quote unquote, um, let's say, successful in one place. It really doesn't mean that it's going to work well in your new place or next engagement or new opportunity. So being aware and understanding the context, right? So the context setting is very important. This is something that I have been doing in almost wherever new organizations or any new situations that I go through, as what they call, right? I mean, most of the organizations, let's say they have a challenge and they want you to come and then fix it and stuff like that. You got to go. What I call this, my initial phase is, a lot of people have this 30-60-90 plan. But what I do is I come in and reconstruct the crime scene, right? There's something that really happened bad at that place. You have to understand the context. So this is where I think the engagement skills, how social you are, is going to help. You meet a new person, how quickly can you open up this person? Open up as in not in a bad manner, open up as in to share and feel comfortable to explain what they have seen in the place, what they know about it, how quickly you can learn things from them. That's critical. And I've always had fortune. I've been fortunate to have a lot of good connections that I am able to build as soon as I come in. So what this helps is to get you the context of where we are going or where we have signed up, what has happened in the place, and the important thing is you should know what you should avoid, right? I mean, it's the easiest to get into the floor, take up the stage, pick up the mic, and say, you know, all those guys who did this in the past is where the problem is, and then here I am, the savior type of a thing. You should avoid that bit a bit, for sure, right? Because while you go through this crime scene investigation, you will also figure out that every individual or a decision that was done, which is, let's say, backfired, was constrained and governed by certain conditions and that situation. So understanding this, being adaptable is in my opinion absolutely important for a leader, and ability to connect and correlate, right? One of the critical things that any leader is able to see is the big picture, ability to connect the dots and see the big picture. I'll give you a simple analogy, right? When I joined, when you and I joined in this place in revenue accounting kind of a place, I had come from networking background. You came from some other, let's say, financial background. But I was able to understand certain concepts of revenue accounting thanks to you guys because you all helped me figure it out. But then the analogies are critical for me. I used to work in a place where if a phone moves from one location to another location, in the telecom world, we used to have it stored in a home location register for this cell. And as you know, all the geo is divided into cells, and you move from one cell to another. Handoff happens, the call continues, your connectivity establishes, and when you cross the state boundary, then you have to hand it over to the another provider for doing the roaming. Once you do the roaming, it goes to a visiting location register. So you visit this place. Now you could be an Airtel here, you could be a, let's say, another provider, let's say BSNL in the other state. But when I pay the bill, I pay it to Airtel. So we get a
Hmm.
single bill for whatever you did, but it could have gone to another provider for getting the services actually availed. But you get this integrated bill. Now I had worked in this kind of a field where you had to do this interlining, interline billing. The product name was Interline Billing Connect.
Hmm.
And now I know why you're smiling
Yeah.
because that's the product that we worked in the airline space. Like I book a ticket from here to New York. I take British Airlines. I fly till Heathrow, and then from there, the carrier until then is BA, and then you change it to American or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly similar concept, but different domains. So I could, when I came into Intline, when we started working, I was very clear what all mistakes that I would have possibly done in when building the other product. I don't need to do that. Whatever I did well, I could repeat the successful mantras here. So that ability to connect big picture despite being across different domains is also a significant factor for a newbie as a leader to come in, because you have to earn your respect. I will strongly condemn and object the word boss that you used for me. I'm not your boss. I was your reporting manager. I'm not a boss. So you have to earn the respect for whether it is your own team or whether it's the product or the knowledge that you're going to do. So you have to earn. So when you put that hard yards initially, you will earn that. So just to recollect, contextual awareness, ability to adapt to the situation, social connections within, I mean, ability to connect with people and then understand and build relationships, and then ability to see the big picture. Quite a few things. I mean, there are a number of other things, but these are top things that hit my mind as you asked questions about critical thinking and critical mindset.
So connecting to critical mindset, I have a follow-up question. And because you have global exposure, you have worked with management, probably from management from Western countries, management from Indian countries. Do you find any key differences between the way the Western management thinks and the way Indian management thinks?
Yeah, well, definitely, it plays a huge role. Having had sites that I have led in Europe and in India and large teams in the US, it is every you know it's completely a different ball game altogether, right? I mean, in India, it is very natural for you to expect this hierarchical relationship and boss
Boss, yeah.
boss. So you're already given that stature here, not necessarily whether it's right or wrong. I mean, I don't want to sound judgmental here because every culture has their own ways of adapting and working. And in the US, it's a bit more free going. Of course, there is a hire and fire culture as well as a part of the US. Very very contractual way of working. Uh, the affinity in terms of people and the long term commitments is not a given unless you invest your time and then work on it. And then the Europe is also very interesting in it, especially certain countries like France is like, the way they start an engagement or a conversation is, let's say you start with them, say hello, and then you propose an idea. They're going to say no, and you shouldn't get offended because that's the way they start. They'll say no, and then they'll start, and then they'll deliberate, discuss, contemplate, and then they will eventually agree, and then we will all move forward. So it's you again. This understanding everybody's culture is super critical. And this actually has been a bottleneck in a lot of places. Huh? I mean, if you miss represent this, or if you don't get this, or if you don't invest in time, these are also not going to happen or change instantly. You have to invest your time, pick up the culture, spend time with them, understand why they are doing what they are doing. And I mean, for example, typically people in the US, I mean, it's very common to have an opinion that in India you not only get cheap labor but also get cheap quality of work,
Mm.
right? But you get somebody travel from there and make them spend a life of an engineer here for a week or two. There is a significant amount of realization they go through as to what any person here will go through. And I have seen people change their opinion significantly after they spend some time here. I mean, it could mean very trivial things that it might sound exaggerated, like, hey, you know what? The guys spend a brave 2 hours to come to office and 2 hours to go back to office in a city like Bangalore. I need to be fairly mindful of, what I do in my mornings, where I get up, have my fresh cup of coffee, and I am at my highest peak level of energy, and then I start reeling out questions and sound the way I sound. But that's exactly when he or she is going to be fully drained after riding in Bangalore and then reaching home, and they have their household chores still waiting and staring at them. And it's an entirely a different ball game for them. So once you go through that sort of an experience, if you here you spoke about empathy, I want to go back there. I mean, they get
Mm.
that empathy and understanding, and after that the way they engage with this team will be entirely different.
I totally agree with you. And if I can add my perspective here based on my experience, because I'm in the US since 2024, almost 2 years. So I've got a chance to work closely with the US customer. So again, nothing to criticize. The way I think the way our culture is that, we value feelings first. So even if you want to say something which is good, good as in like it's not really offended, but you think about, hey, what that person might feel. So let me put that word in a different way. So we
Okay.
create that barriers, like step one, step two, step three, and then we finally deliver that message. Here, it's very direct. So being direct, you are not insulting or you're not trying to say, you are actually simplifying the message,
Yeah.
saying that, hey, this is what I need. This is what I expected from you.
Mm.
Okay. So I think it require maybe a bit of maturity, when you reach to that level after
Yeah.
spending
Yeah.
certain years, you understand that it's not, it's good to be direct. Okay. And then if the other person is taking in other direction, other way, that's not my problem. I need to ensure that my communication is crisp and clear.
Yeah.
If he's having any problem, he have to come and then clarify. I mean, that's the level of, we expect that, being an adult, you have this level of maturity to sort out things. So yeah, and but I don't see problem, even like you try to respect the feelings. At the end of the day, if you're able to get things done, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And generally most of the present companies that get set up in India, there will be this headquarters in, let's say, in the West or in the US. Naturally, their understanding on the product and technologies that they've been working on for multiple years, they'll be definitely at a better skill level, knowledge level than a newbie here in India. But you need to be able to invest time with them to bring them up to speed, and then start being judgmental rather than being upfront being judgmental. So the number of these kind of challenges. So again, to go back, I think culture is absolutely critical. What I have seen worked really well is strong ambassadors from both the sides, travel and get that. empathized, feel both of them in mutually, then they hit a sweet spot and it works like a charm.
So the reason I asked this question, coming back to the critical mindset, because I believe that thinking require some level of energy. You just without it, so it's very important how you are diverting your energy. So if you are just focusing on understanding the feelings and things, you are delaying things. That's how I think. So it's better that you channel your energy in the right way, focus more on solutioning than really thinking about more problem. And I think you and I know this is not something new we have discovered. This is old days practice. But when we are in that moment of heat, we just want to address the heat. We forget everything, because that adrenaline take over, and then we just want to react. And it's a journey. It's a quite a journey. I'll
It
let you
is.
finish, but I want to just end with one statement: how to get from react to responsive. I don't want to react. I want to be more responsive.
Well, I generally don't read books, right? But I I guess I attended some session on critical thinking or critical conversation. I'm trying to recollect. There was this Australian, let's say the person who was conducting it and
Mm-hmm.
or the trainer. He was curious because it was a 2 or 3 day session. He was curious to see me having very strong opinions during the session and all that stuff. So he pulled me aside during the second or third day in the lunch. We had lunch together and said, "Hey, tell me, tell me what kind of books do you read?" And I said, "Look, I'm going to disappoint you. The last book that I read was my 10th standard social science, and it was a disappointment, and I gave up reading books after that." He looked at me, stared my face, and said, "No, it can't be true. You must be reading books." I said, "I don't." And he made a point to send his book, Crucial Conversations, after he went back to Australia, and he shipped it to my home and said, "You should read this." So I'm going to take some reference from it. I didn't read the book because it was the same essence as what he conducted
Mm-hmm.
the session. So if I'm hoping he's not hearing this. So he's too, let's say, popular. So he will have his own channels and followers, and I don't think he's going to disturb us. But the point here is there's this fight flight kind of behaviors that you talk about that we get into, right? When you get into crucial conversations, there are these generally two things that you see. You either fight or you just completely go quiet and then take a flight. I mean, human body, in my understanding, has three modes of acting, right? One is if you have if a tiger chases you, you're going to get this adrenaline kicked in and you start running. That's the adrenaline rush. So you react from your gut and adrenaline. And then there is a lot of emotions that you get into, which means you're reacting from your heart. And if you're able to allow, and the third and possibly the best is to ability to give the response via your brain, which means you need to you need to control the adrenaline. It's a stimulus that the body produces for certain situations, and it will happen. So obviously you don't want to sit quietly when a tiger chases and then, hey tiger, no, just chill. I'm a human. I need my life. You're not going to survive for that. So it takes its course. So you got to do that. But I think a lot of turmoil comes when you respond from your heart, where there is emotional outbursts like anger, frustration, stress, joy, or high elatement, and things like that. So it's important to see how you can control and channel that, and then maximize your signals from brain to take over and handle this. Again, I'm not an expert in all of this, which I mean, one of the reasons why they say, "Hey, take a deep breath, count 10 and all the shit," is because your oxygen needs to hit your brain, I guess, and the brain starts working on it, and then sends the right stimuli for that situation, which is going to be a little bit more balanced and not biased, because the neurons work, and the signals go through, and then you get, let's say, the optimal response. Heart is going to be generally a immediate reaction or a response, immediate reaction, not a response. Brain generally gives you a response. So I don't know if that answers, which is why they say, hey, no, take a deep breathe. Let's take a deep breathe.
No, indeed, that answers. I would like to move on to another area from heavy corporate and the GAN that we just shared. Thank you for that. But I want to move on to a very hot topic: artificial intelligence.
Uh,
Suddenly, it feels like we are living in a new world, new era has started, And so I want to understand from you, what do you think of artificial intelligence? Do you think it has a potential, or it's a kind of a glorified macros? It will phase out eventually.
okay. Very interesting. I was in a CXO roundtable last year around March or April. Okay. Pretty similar kind of discussion. This is all C-suites and technocrats sitting in the room, and we were all discussing, and the question was like, we were not worried about, hey, will AI take over and rule or kick us out and all that stuff. That was never in the table. How can we leverage this, and what is stopping us from an adoption? Hey, how can we do better, etc. So it was more like, um, it's there. The hype cycle is at its peak. Can we leverage the best out of this next Kool-Aid that has hit the industry? We've seen number of such things come and then go. We all know this hype cycle. It hits its peak, then slowly decelerates. It may not die. It'll be there. It'll hit a steady state and find its life. So, the question was, how do we make the best use? And then the talk was going around, the biggest challenge is we don't know what to do with it, right? I mean, we don't know how to create the right use cases. That's been the biggest bottleneck. Like about 70% of the room agreed, and there were also survey results that backed saying AI is there, but it's still not relevant unless we make it to use. I mean, let's create use cases, use that, and then live life better. This was the kind of conversation. But right now, I'm glad you're asking me this question in what? Almost we're in end of February 2026. If you had asked me this question, let's say July 2025, my answer would have not been very different from the earlier conversation that I mentioned. I think something transformational has hit the ground recently. And the funny part is, ever since November, every week, every day, we are seeing improvements, not in incremental manner, in exponential manner. I have, there is this famous Rajnikant movie where,
Robo.
it's a little more recent one where he spends a lot of time in the jail, like 20 years in jail, and he says, "I am back." Right? I'm using that dialogue to tell everybody that I'm back to coding. Right? It's been a long time since I've been coding, but I'm back, and it has been made so easy that anybody can code. That's not the power that I'm talking about. I think the power that has hit the ground now is the agentic models and the capability for it to do a lot of things in an autonomous fashion. Whether you have data, so there were times when the data was not there. Oh, it is not curated. Oh, it's not well maintained. Oh, it's not anonymized. Oh, it's not vectorized. There were a lot of data integrity and data dirtiness that was stopping. Algorithms were not mature. We've gone past all of this shit. I mean, we are now in a phase where it can do really some powerful things. Even as I'm speaking in my own organization, we've done some things which I would have estimated for a year long, 2 year long migration project. We did it in 3 weeks. It's a unimaginable power that we are having. The question is, are we going to see another hype death of this, or is it going to take us somewhere? I think the answer is how well we are going to leverage this to solve some critical problems that we want to chase. You need to keep the money part aside and try and see how you can try and solve some critical problems. If you go down that route, you will indeed make money as well. But I think you can get really some powerful tools put to use to solve some business critical problems. Yeah, that's again, it's a long one to take, but something transformational is happening as we speak.
So if I have to give one pessimistic view of artificial intelligence, which I read in articles, there's always two sides of the coin, right?
Yeah.
So one view is that, okay, we are seeing AI taking over now, and there is a mass layoff happening. People have started losing job. And on other side, there's also a question that has come: how relevant in future going to be a software engineering course? Because after we have this called vibe coding, anyone can code. How relevant software engineering would be? And there's one more interesting thing. There are certain colleges, universities, foreign universities, they have seen drop in enrollment in their engineering courses, software engineering courses, because students want to explore areas which cannot be easily replaced by AI now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a negative view, maybe relevant, and
No, it is. It's a good counterbalance, right? Again, see, look, if you have any powerful tool in your hand, that's not the end of it, right? I mean, what are you going to do with it? I think that's critical. Now, let's look at it this way, right? When offices did not even have computers, right? It was all shop floors or desks and tables with manual papers and files. People told when systems like computers enter, their job will be gone. We've seen that now in the last 40 years. It's not gone. There is no company which can call itself a non-tech anymore. Every company is tech. What has happened is when these systems enter, they technify the function, and every company is now a tech company. That's a better way to embrace the chaos, is what I use. This AI is now is bringing in a chaos. I think you need to embrace the chaos. You can't stand out because you'll be swept away or consumed by it. You need to find a way to embrace it and figure out your own sweet spot. And it can very well be the way that you just explained, that you find a place where there is no space for AI to enter, but very soon it'll become pervasive and all pervasive. And then you'll still need to find a way to adapt yourself to figure your space, leveraging what you have in the market or in the space. It's probably not a great idea to avoid it. You need to embrace it and figure that sweet spot for both the technology and you to stay together.
okay. I'm gonna shift to another segment, keeping a moment lighter. I'm gonna throw some buzzwords and you need to react like anything that comes to your mind. Okay. So the first word is Elon Musk.
Smoking shit. I don't know what he thinks, but he's like, he has something interesting, sometimes weird, sometimes funny. A lot of his statements, it's all very cool, but you take all those motherhood statements that he has made in the last 5-10 years, you will sit and then laugh about it now, but you were really raving and wow, this guy is cool. This is how we all reacted initially. When I say we, it's the general public. But now if you look at a few statements, it sounds a little funny. That doesn't mean I want to undermine his caliber or ability, but I think it could be a bit more he could be a bit more thoughtful and mindful about what he speaks in public world. But who am I to say that?
Okay. That's interesting. Next buzzword is India.
Energy, vibrant. I mean, colorful. I mean, it's it's like a lot of words that hits my head, but I think it's the happening place in the world, in my opinion. I mean, it's what I mean. We are in the whether you take technology. I mean, this is the usual thing that I say, right? I mean, when you look at, I've visited a lot of Europe and West and other countries. A lot of them are struggling. A lot of them are struggling. But when I come to India, I see growth. I see a lot of momentum. I see so much of great things happening. I mean, in the West, we use this. Hey, this is like, for example, Sweden talks about innovation, right? Hey, we are innovative country types. India, Jugaad works. That's cool. I mean, we make it work. You call it innovation, we call it Jugaad, but it still works. And I think there's so much of diversity here and energy. We have huge, let's say, youth population, which unfortunately will slowly go down, and we will possibly not suffer that. We will stay through this. But I think if a street vendor selling a tender coconut or a vegetable, a street vendor accepts money only in digital currency, it speaks the volumes of the advancements that we have, and a lot of this is done by what is so called lethargic in government agencies. They are seeding the root and the foundational elements for most of these technologies. So it's amazing to see the kind of growth and the vibrant ecosystem that we have here. So I know it's going to be a lot of words. It's not one word, but this is the place to be.
Okay, Bitcoin.
Avoid. I'm not a big fan. Neither have I done enough research, so it could be a bit biased.
Okay, driverless car.
Yeah, it goes back to Elon Musk. I mean, try that in India. I mean, we have an odd junction. I sit in a place where there's an odd number of roads come and connect, and you'll have to still figure your way out if you are a pedestrian to walk through. I think the driverless cars are going to sit there and become bonkers in that place. So it has a space. I mean, anyway, he's creating a life in moon. Maybe he can put them in the moon and drive them.
Okay, and the last buzzword, T20 World Cup.
India. They're
India.
going to smash it. Oh yeah,
Who do you want to see in finals? I mean, India is of course, but which other
yeah.
team?
I mean, we've already seen South Africa the last time, but it's happening too frequently as well nowadays. So let's say I don't want to see West Indies lose. Maybe I don't. I'm so happy seeing England lose. So let's get let's get them to the finals, beat the shit out of them, and send them back home.
You don't want to play. You don't want to see India Pakistan in final.
It's now become a dead rubber, right? I mean, we all sit with this a lot of eagerness. That's what we used to do. At least most likely when we were all growing up, we were on the receiving end. It's
Yeah.
so now we are so bored to see this 16-1 sort of a record in World Cups and stuff. It's so boring and one sided. Actually speaking, the India USA was much more exciting than India Pakistan.
Okay. Last buzzword. It was not. I didn't plan for this, but I do want to ask, and I don't know. It's going to be controversial. Easy for you to answer or no? The current U.S. president.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, he, okay, let's put it this way. He is definitely making the world sit and count. I mean, like, he's getting noticed. But a lot of things that he's doing, I honestly don't know who on earth with any sensible mind will carry out. But he's still ambitious. You have to give it to him, for being so crazily ambitious in what he's trying to do. You have to admire that part, because I always say this, right? Whenever you go and start something, you have to be crazily ambitious. And this guy is indeed crazily ambitious, literally. I mean, forget about Donald Trump. There's this big country, quote unquote, number one country. If they're happy selecting him as the president, God save America.
Okay, well said. I think that was a very fun and interesting session. So we are kind of leaning towards the end of our podcast, and I have two questions for you. You can give a philosophical answer or you can give fun answer. So I think that today's youth, Gen Z, very smart. You know, I think what I was doing when I was at that age. So today they're very smart. So, but if there is one advice that you would like to give, what would it be?
Yeah. The first thing is you don't give advice to that generation. They are not going to listen. But it's not an advice, but I maybe I can tell what works for me and what I strive to take as a, let's say, a philosophy that I follow. There are 3 Ds that I use. Dispassionately deliver your duties. That's how I work. There is nothing that I get too attached or hey, this is my product, this is my innovation, this is my work, this is my team, this is my company. I'm absolutely not attached. That doesn't mean that I'm disoriented. I'm only saying it's your duty to do the work that you've signed up and do it in a very dispassionate manner. It helps us keep our mental state at peace and provides us an optimal, you know, let's say it puts us in an optimal mind space. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but this generation may not be 100% true. They're also been tagged as someone who is looking for instant gratification.
Yeah.
Their span of attention is very less and they want to keep hopping from one thing to another thing. Really, it's like an Instagram generation. Do you really think it's an Instagram generation? I don't think, after looking at especially India generation, Z generation, the kind of things they are getting engaged. We have this bhajan clubs and others.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I don't feel like, maybe it's 100% true.
True, true. I think, see, whoa, what's happening with this new generation? Yes, they do have short attention span. They do love instant gratification. Food style is a bit largely fast food these days. So it is there. I'm not denying it. But what they need to realize is not everybody can become a whatever they call Instagram superhero, or your channels are going to be,
Influencers.
yeah, influencers and stuff. Look, I'm out of this generation, I guess, clearly. But anyway, the point is, it's they only see the out of the millions of people, that one or two that have come up and stood out, right? What they don't see is the struggle that anybody would have taken to get there, right? Nobody becomes let's say a Virat Kohli overnight. We clearly see
Mm.
the struggle and the hard work that they've put. This part isn't possibly emphasized as much as it should be, and that is something that they should go through. They have to. There are a lot of cool things. Has made their life easy, so there is so much more time for you to do the grunt work, to pick up the core skills, and then you can use all the cool aids and the cool toys to do what you want to do in a easier, quicker, efficient, optimal fashion, right? But if you don't know what you want to do, they say, right, if you have a hammer in your hand, everything else will look like a nail. I mean, they may be flooded with a lot of powerful tools in their hand. If you don't know how to use them, you will end up abusing them or underutilizing them. And I think that's a that's a pitfall that I'm worried about for those cases. But to go back to your point, there are enough checks and balances in our ecosystem when kids grow up here to keep them in check and stuff like that. Now it's all about guided parenting. I'm a parent myself, so I don't I'm not saying I'm doing a great job. I'm guilty of a lot of loopholes and giving into the kids' cravings and stuff like that. But that's where we need to stay strong and be the strict parent to keep them in check.
Well said. And my last question for you is that if you, let's say, you want to, as a founder, let's say, you are trying to build a product, what is the product you would like to build that may solve a problem or make people life easy?
Look, I've only had this aspiration to start something on my own. There was one more person. After that, I gave up this idea, but that idea is still something I'm, I haven't seen that function the way it is functioning. I used to work in smart home space.
Hmm.
I mean, when you buy a bulb for 40 rupees, how about getting a 20 rupee adapter to make it smart? Like,
Okay.
it's a retrofit idea. You plug the adapter into the bulb where you actually plug it in. Instead of plugging the bulb, you're going to put this adapter and then get the bulb on. And similarly, you basically give IP to all the non-IP devices, whether it's TV, fridge, washing machine, anything inside your home. And so long as it is having a power line connection and things like that. My intent was to create a smart home and make it affordable. You don't have to bring down the house. You don't have to pay through your nose. It should be such a simple thing for you to sit in US, and let's say your family or somebody, your parents are in India and they're outside the home, but they had ordered for a gas cylinder. You should still be able to answer the cylinder wala who's knocked the door and say, hey, keep it there or come at this time, or you should talk to them seamlessly without worrying about it. Or somebody forgot to switch off the geyser or something, and you're already in your vacation. You can still pull up your phone, walk through your model home, climb up the stairs, put it off, and come back or something like. It was really cool at that time. I'm talking about 15 to 18 years ago. Uh, I'm not saying it's not there; it's there, but the price point is only something that the really rich can afford. But for me, anything that you build needs to be to the mass, and it should be either free or affordable.
Just like Ambani mentality, give it free.
He can afford to do that.
Yeah. So, one final question, seriously, final question. Let's say you want to, any idea, you want to get this idea to a potential investor. Do you have any favorite investor that you would like to pitch ever?
Look, I have consciously stayed away from being an entrepreneur because I know my while I know my strengths, I know my limitations more. So I've stayed away. So I've never honestly thought through this, but I think somebody like Mohandas Pai or Ananda Nilkani are minds that I that I'd like to
Yeah,
go.
these are all non-glamorous people. I was
Yeah.
thinking, you'll take some glamorous. Okay, so I think India will miss you on Shark Tanks because you have you have decided not to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, what? Now that's a nice and funny way to end the session.
Okay, I think I had a really great time, Ram. Thank you so much. I think we covered so much of areas, and I feel that maybe one session is not enough. I may have to do one more session with you, but I know your calendar is so busy that I requested you last year. Maybe after 5 months, you gave me an appointment saying that yes, let's do it. So I understand that if I want to do another podcast, I have to probably wait 2027 to come. But
You're missing out the fact that I'm getting aged and there's forgetfulness that's sitting in. It's nothing much.
But I think it was wonderful. Thank you so much. Great meeting you again. Great learning. Let's see if we can have, depending on how we get the response, I think people will like to see you again. I'm very sure about that. So let's see. And thank you so
Hey,
much
firstly,
again. Thank you so much.
thanks for reaching out to me, still remembering me after so many years and reaching out to me and then making me this honor of guest here. So I'm so super honored and humbled. Thanks. Wonderful. I mean, more than anything, I'm so happy to catch up with you. Wonderful talking to you after so long. Things haven't changed. We just picked it up from as though where we left yesterday and it moved on. So thanks for making it so seamless and comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram. See you next time.